Starlight, star bright, which star shall I see tonight? It's Billy. It's Billy. We're talking about Billy. Hello everyone, Piffle Neo here, and today we'll be going over my guide to playing the best Billy Kid you could ever dream of playing. I'll be going over a basic build first, that way if you don't have certain characters or anything mentioned later, you can still make them into a great party member. Then we'll go into an advanced build. All characters, W engine, Bang Boo, and Drive Disc will be factoring into this build. Finally, we'll be ending it off with a skill analysis, explaining the most optimal ways to use them in combat. With all that said and done, let's begin! I know from experience that most of the time, not everyone has the ability to build the best, strongest build of a character. So if you want to find a good enough start to building this self-proclaimed Starlight Knight, I've got you covered. By completing Trial 3 in the Primer, you'll complete an objective in the Rookie on the Road quest, earning you the Starlight Engine. And while it's not the best for him, it still shows a heavy amount of promise. It has a base attack stat of 40 and an advanced stat of 10%. When equipped, it gives you the Knight's combo effect, meaning if you pull off a dodge counter or a quick assist, your attack will be increased by 12% for 12 seconds. We'll get into it later, but just know that this buff works wonders for Billy. Next up, party members. There are 4 potential party members that you could have without pulling: Anby, Nicole, Corin, and Ben. Ben isn't that optimal since he can't take advantage of his additional ability, which for him is extremely useful. And while it would be poetic for me to say Nicole works the best here, she gets beaten up by Corin in this instance. Let me explain. Anby is a necessary ally here. Since Billy can't do melee and Corin's melee is a tad slower, Anby evens them both out. If you need to get closer for any reason, you use her. But when the pressure gets too high, that's when Billy gets to shine. Since his perfect assist also acts as a free window to get out of the way of whatever threat is nearby. Corin, on the other hand, takes a completely different approach. If you've got an elite or something that needs priority over the groups of small fry, Corin works to absolutely eradicate them. If you let her get in there, you'll have a chain attack within no time, allowing you to swap back into Billy, back up from the mess you made, and finish the job. If you want to see what Drive Disc will work until you get more, Shockstar Disco is the answer. Give him 4, and not only will your impact be increased by 6%, your basic attack, dash attack, and dodge counters will also give the main target 20% more days. It's not perfect, but for a start, it's pretty alright. To end this section off, let's talk Bang Boo. Even though it's the first one you get, Bang Boo covers a lot of the bases. It's a good damage dealer normally, but with Billy it gains an extra 30% boost in attack. Another one who can help tremendously is Explorer Boo. If you don't need the extra firepower, use it for support. Instead of attacking, it has a chance to have you regenerate health, gain a shield, or gain energy for a little while. That about wraps it up for the basics, meaning next up is the advanced build. Starting off with our W engine once again, this time we'll be using the Starlight Engine Replica, Billy's actual W engine. It has a base attack of 42 and an advanced stat of 10%. This gives the effect Night Beam Change. This ability makes Billy broken, as he'll get a 36% increase in damage for 8 seconds if you hit enemies from 6 meters away. Taking into account that Billy is amazing with range, you've got the tools to use Billy even more directly for bosses, and making most small fry fuel for chain attacks. Next up, I'll touch upon the core skills that you want to make a priority over the rest, that being B, D, and F, since they all boost up your base attack by 25. All of these contribute to a damage increase while using Crouching Shot up until you move. Keep in mind that the materials needed come from the Notorious Hunt and the Expert Challenge, so be ready to grind. As for Billy's skill enhancement, try to focus on his basic attack and dash attack more than his special and assist and ultimate. His assist upgrades are the least of your concerns actually. Focusing on his special and ultimate damage first is more helpful, since overall, they get more payoff than assists. Of course, don't ignore assists, but give priority to the other skills first. Next up, characters. Now that we have access to all the characters, we've got more room to make amazing teams. And with that said, Corrin stays because... And while you could still run Ambi, you've got a few other options as well. For one, Nekomata. She basically fills a somewhat similar role to Ambi, but now since every member is a physical attacker, you're gonna inevitably pull off the assault status. If you want a more controversial but effective route, use Sokaku. While her ability isn't active, that's not what we want to use her for. Start out by using Billy until you get the chance to chain attack or perfect assist. If it's a chain attack, have Sokaku as the last person to be sent out, and if she perfect assists in, wait for the right time to use Fly the Flag. Once used, Corrin now has a chance to get an assist in, mow the lawn, and perfect assist back into Billy for an encore performance. Next up, the Mindscape Cinema. I'm only going to be talking about the more notable upgrades, so just know if one isn't mentioned here, it's just a +2 in all of his skills. Level 1 has Billy gain 2.7 energy upon hitting an enemy with a dash attack or a dodge counter, and while Shield has a cooldown of 5 seconds, the more energy, the better. Level 2 not only increases dodge counter damage, but his rolling shot now counts as dodges. Not only is he invincible when that happens, but it also triggers a dodge counter guaranteed. And with the Starlight Engine, that just increases the chance of its ability being able to activate. Keep this in the back of your mind for when we go over his skills, because this will be crucial later. Level 4 increases Billy's critical rate depending on how close you are to the target. The max rate is 32%, which actually ends up giving you a reason to want to get closer to your target. And finally, level 6 makes it so every 10 hits, his damage increases by 6%, only stacking 5 times, and while this resets if you get hit, that's a free 30% damage buff as long as you play well. Next up, Drive Discs. You want to roll in with 4 Fanged Metal, as this will give you a damage increase and make it so if anyone in the party pulls off Assault, then Billy will have his damage for that target increased by 35% for 12 seconds. Paired with the Starlight Engine replica, this makes Assault a death wish for any enemy who gets the status. For the other two, you want to run Woodpecker or Electro, which will increase your critical rate by 8. Not much to say about this one, but it does help a little bit.
And by a little bit, I mean a lot.
Before I forget, I want to take the time to mention Billy's additional ability. Don't worry, with the teams I've given, it'll always be active. If Billy uses a chain attack, his next ultimate gets a 50% boost in damage, and since it stacks twice, you could pull off an ultimate that does double damage when the time is right. I would suggest using it for bosses and elite enemies if you can, since it is without a doubt one of the best features Billy has to offer. Finally, the Bang Boo. The one I think that works the best is Million. Million builds a machine gun that shoots enemies rapidly, and while on paper that just sounds okay, the DPS from this little guy is insane. It also might help to run Ambi or Nekomata, since those 2 cunning hairs give this guy a bonus with his chain attack, increasing the damage the less enemies are on the field. Since it's currently the only cunning hairs Bang Boo, by default it's already one of the best options we have so far. Now if you want a more simple pick, you could still go with Bag Boo or Explorer Boo, but if you want a balance of the both, you could use Butler. Butler not only gives energy, but he also has a chain attack, making him kind of like a combat support role. With that said and done, it's time to move on to the final part of this guide, the skill analysis. For this part, we'll be focusing on the practicality of each skill, and at the end, I'll show off some raw gameplay for a more visual representation, starting off with his basic attack, Full Firepower. Doing this will unleash an attack that can pierce targets, and if you hold or mash the button, you'll enter Crouching Shot, basically extending the duration of the attack. Moving in any direction causes you to do a rolling shot, and once you stop attacking in general, he'll do one final shot. Be aware that you can actually dodge out of a rolling shot, which paired with Mindscape Cinema Level 2 can extend your dodge time by a large amount. His special attack has him performing 3 powerful piercing attacks, so if you have one big target, it's very ideal. The EX version instead delivers one extremely powerful piercing shot that also makes him invincible while in use. You want to use these as soon as you get a great opportunity, like a slow, tanky enemy. This way you can take advantage of the Starlight Engine replica. Next up comes one of his best attacks, his dash attack. When you use it, he spins around, hitting any nearby targets for decent damage, but here's the thing, it's spammable. If you simply swap from your base attack to this constantly, you can rack up tremendous amounts of damage on small fry while being able to keep your distance from big threats. You can also use it to get closer or use it on a single enemy. It ain't overkill if you don't have limited ammo. His perfect assist stops time when you use it. You can either use this to get out of the way, or if you press the attack button as soon as it starts, he'll unleash a flurry of attacks towards the enemy in question. Not only does this count as an evasive assist, it's also really popular amongst crowds. Finally, his chain attack and ultimate are basically the same attack. He shoots everywhere in multiple directions, doing massive damage. While it's used for multi-targets mostly, it can also be used exceptionally with single targets. Again, remember that his chain attacks are going to buff his ultimate, so save it until you know you can do maximum damage. Now as promised, here's some footage to show this knight in action. I'll put an icon up on the screen, that way you can see which build I'm using at the current moment. And with all that said and done, let's put Billy to the test.
My turn! Don't move! Hey!
Moving out.
Starlight! Shine bright! It's my turn! Now or never! Starlight! Leave it to Billy! Don't worry, everyone will get their share! Stand still!
Get back out. New perspective gained from all the